something very, very important. And that is the principle of encouraging your children to love Islam and to love learning Islam. This is something that I personally find to be somewhat deficient in the way that many of us deal with our children. Sometimes you have some parents who are negligent. They just don't teach their children Islam, and they don't have any concern for their children to learn about Islam. I mean, their primary concern is their secular dunya education, and that's what they put the pressure on. But you see some other parents who put so much pressure on their children that they push their children away from Islam by putting enormous and unnecessary pressure upon their children when it comes to learning Islam. You have to make people love Islam and want to study Islam. For that reason, we don't overburden with the number of classes that are taking place in a week, for example. Even when it comes to adults, we don't overburden people by having, like for example, 8 hours of classes on a Friday, and then 2 hours every single night. Why do we not overburden people? I mean, the resources are there, but we don't overburden people because eventually you push people away. So it is important that when you think about your children, and when you think about your children's Islamic education, that you think about making them love Islam and instilling love of Allah in their hearts. The love of Allah Azza wa Jal is a fundamental principle. It's a fundamental part of La ilaha illallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. From man are those people who have taken partners besides Allah. They love them as they should love Allah. But those who believe love Allah more. This is a fundamental proof for instilling the love of Allah into the hearts of ourselves and our children. And the love of Allah should be one of those fundamental driving forces in our lives to motivate us. Not only the love of Allah, but also hope and fear. Hope and fear in terms of hoping in Allah's reward and fearing Allah's punishment. And this is the secret behind the first 3 ayat of Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. The first ayah instills the love of Allah. Allah who raised you up and looked after you and nurtured your iman, Rabbul Alameen. The second ayah instills the hope of Allah in your heart, in His mercy, in His forgiveness. The third ayah instills the fear of Allah in your heart, that Allah is Maliki Yawmiddin, the fear of what will come on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and the fear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take you to account for what you do. And a similar kind of principle we want to still instill in our children. Now, hope and fear take time to build. They come with knowledge, they come with maturity. When children are very, very young, they might not fully understand, especially when they're extremely young. They might not fully understand what it means to hope in Allah's reward or to fear Allah. But these are things that you're constantly working on building in them. And above all, the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. That they love Allah, that they love Islam, that they love Iman. When Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ وكره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون فضلا من الله ونعمه والله عليم حكيم. In Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah Azza wa Jal said, Allah made Iman beloved to you. He made you love Iman, and He made it something beautiful in your heart. And that's what we want to do with our children. We want to be a sabab, a cause for the love of Iman to enter into their hearts. Now some of that is to do with reward and punishment. So some of that is to do with rewarding them for Islamic achievements rather than dunya based achievements. Because when you do this, you are setting the standard that Islam is what matters. Yes, I'm worried about your education, I want you to do well, but what really matters to me is Islam. That's why your success in your Islamic studies, I'm going to reward it many times more than I reward your success, for example, in your secular studies.